Ankit Kumar, my colleague, is now going to help us understand how is this mission evacuation really being planned out and what do the satellite images show. Over to you, Ankit.
Pooja, what we can do is using open source flight tracking platforms, we can give you a visual representation of how this incredible evacuation operation is being undertaken by the government of India. So this is the point of origin in Bucharest. This is the flight path. And as you can see, this is a live simulated view of the Air India aircraft, the Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, a huge aircraft that is carrying 219 Indian citizens, apart from the crew members, back to India. As you can see, the flight path has tried to avoid the controversial areas around the Black Sea. It has now crossed the airspace of Romania. It has entered Turkey. What we can also do is, using the same platform of flight radar, we can give you a simulated view of this aircraft. So this is a simulated view of the Air India 787-8 Dreamliner. It is now flying over Turkey. In next few hours, it will cross into several other Asian regions, and most likely by evening, it will enter into the India airspace. This is a live simulated position of the aircraft that is carrying 219 Indian nationals back to India from Ukraine via Romania. This is the 787 Dreamliner.
Yes.
It is now flying over Turkey. It is moving towards India. 219 Indian citizens, all safe, coming home.
Fantastic. It's a relief to see their own way back to their home. But remember, many more still in Ukraine. Ankit Kumar getting us a different angle, a satellite angle, to help us understand what does the airspace really look like. Let's go back to Ukraine now. Maria Pizarenko is in the hotbed of where the action is. Rajesh Pawar is in Mariupol, getting us all the latest for days now from Ukraine. First to you, Rajesh, because now even filming and recording with your mobile phone is no easy task, and you know it well. But how is that changing? Clearly, we can see that people on the ground, officials, authorities, are now on a bigger guard there in the city.
Pooja, it's not just the officials, it's the common people. People who care for the country and people who are scared, people who are on edge. Because they fear that anybody who's recording right now may be sending this information to Russian forces or may be recording something of military importance. Because, as I said earlier, this is a hybrid warfare. This is not a conventional war in the conventional sense as we have been seeing in movies or Indo-Pak War or Indo-China War. It's a different war. It is very unique in its own way. And there is a lot of militia operating from both sides. From the Ukrainian side, it's called Azov Battalion, which carry a lot of, by the way, Nazi insignias. They carry Nazi salutes and all, which came under heavy criticism from West as well. Whereas on the Russian side, there are a lot of people of Russian ethnicity, Russian-speaking people who are very sympathetic towards Russia and wants Ukraine to be allied with Russia. These are the people who are in every part of society here, and now they have infiltrated almost every city. Now, some of them, what they're doing is either they're recording installations of strategic importance and sending it to Russians. And also, what I have heard, unconfirmed, is that they are live and they are being monitored by the information centers in the Russian army to help them conduct their operation minute by minute, on ground guidance of their operations in the cities, in the streets. That is the reason they are so charged, they are so much suspicious.
And that uncertainty, correct, that suspicion is creating more fear amid locals as well. Stay safe, Rajesh. Thank you for getting us that information. Now, Maria Pizarenko, because has been getting us the situation of how the cost of war is on the local residents. Maria, for 3 days now, you've been showing us bunkers, bomb shelters, infant babies. And clearly we can imagine 3 days on, the facilities will only become much worse, because more people will start congregating in such areas. What I want to understand from you now, what is the street looking like? Because we see tanks coming in. We had the tank visual mowing down a car, but the president is in the Kyiv Avenue recording a video saying, "I'm here. Don't worry, I have not fled the country." What is the city looking like and the street, Maria, for now?
Right. I'm now again close to the bomb shelter, still the same bomb shelter, because air alarm has gone just minutes before this live. So I've had a quick run along the quarters where I live. So it is the city center, the governmental quarters, and I had the chance to look at the streets, what the situation there. So yes, there are Ukrainian military patrolling the streets, a lot of military of different types, like military, armed military in camouflage attire, yes, in camouflage. Also a lot of police and a lot of military cars in the streets patrolling all this area. But still we have seen a bit of, civil local people walking around. Some of them are going to buy their groceries. Some of them are doing their daily, stuff in this situation, just having commuting from their house to the grocery store. But of course, the situation here in this parliamentary governmental quarter is really tense, and military do not allow to film anything, and they really check every person who crosses the checkpoints. We've seen people coming in cars because they live here in this area, and they checked everything they had. So they went through the stuff they had in their car and checked also the IDs. So the checking is really very, thorough. And yes, we are seeing more and more briefings, reports from the official people, from the president of Ukraine, who regularly speaks to the nation, saying that we won't lay down arms, that Ukraine is strong and Ukrainian army is combating. And
on that question, Maria, because that we will not lay down arms, we also had a Ukrainian member of parliament who's flaunting a Kalashnikov and saying, I'll be ready. And we have that interview coming up in just a short while from now. Are there more instances like that? That citizens around you, if at all they have access to guns or any weapon, anything that they can possibly have to defend themselves, are trying to gather it, collect it, compile it, because they are not going to leave and they're not backing down either?
Yes, those who had the access to these arms, to rifles, to machine guns, are already rolling themselves into the territorial defense units, and it's a huge movement. There are still lines at the recruitment centers, and people are reporting that those who come with their own rifles are good. They are packed and have the equipment, and so many people want to join this territorial defense that there are not so many rifles, so many arms to give them, to equip them. And also I want to give you some more information about the breaking news. There was just moments ago a briefing of the Minister of the Reintegration of Occupied Territories, Irina Vereshchuk, and she was speaking to the public about the casualties of the enemy. So Russian troops have suffered casualties of 3,050 and even more, as said by the minister, people dead and a lot of people injured. And now Ukraine has called the Red Cross help to evacuate, to bring the bodies of those killed Russian soldiers from the Ukrainian territory. So we can see that the amounts of those killed in this fights, in these battles, is pretty, decent, a high amount, so that Ukraine already has to deal with the bodies of killed enemies. And by the way, yes, we do have casualties on the side of the Ukrainian armed forces, and the Minister of Defense and also the Commander-in-Chief says that yes, there are casualties, but we won't name them, and the battles are really tense, really very difficult. This night was very tough for Kyiv, for the defense of Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, and Ukrainian armed forces, and especially the Air Force suffered some casualties.
So you're telling us that the Ukrainian government and ministry is stating that they've managed to have casualties from the Russian side as well. They are now asking the Red Cross to help take those bodies of those soldiers back into the Russian territory. Very interesting. Ukraine is basically putting up a front and claiming they are putting up a strong fight. What you see on your screens, that is the visual of one of the Ukrainian member of parliament This is an image that has gone viral. Flaunting a Kalashnikov weapon, stating, I'll be ready when they come. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be defending my home and my land. We have that interview coming up in just about few minutes from now. It's unmissable, but it's also mind-numbing for you to even think that a woman will have to flaunt it and be prepared. And she's a member of parliament, remember? And this is, of course, this is clearly not normal or common either. Let's go across the border from Ukraine. I request Maria, Rajesh to stay safe as much as possible. That's also a priority that you should consider. Abha Bakaya, our colleague, flew down and she's now at the Poland border with Ukraine, where a lot of people are heading in to evacuate, to be safe. Abha, I see people around you and you've been bringing us reports of long queues. What does the border look like, which is open for now and people just want to be safe? Do you see families, children, women?
Lots of families, Pooja. In fact, it's interesting. We've got reports as we speak of a contingent of Indian students who are just on the Ukraine side, waiting to be let into the Polish side. I'm just actually waiting along with the Indian contingent here to see, to see how soon they actually cross over. The border is open, but the reason for the delays, some part of it is passport control, of course, on the Ukraine side. We are seeing a whole host of families, women and kids coming in, especially. The men, in fact, are staying back in Ukraine to fight. If anything, I'm actually seeing on the Polish side a lot of men who are actually looking to go back into Ukraine, who are being called back, to sort of, who are being called back to participate in the war as well. And that's happening. So we are clearly seeing that divide. Women and kids coming in on the Polish side.
How are the facilities like on the border, Abha? Because if so many and thousands of them are pouring in, is Poland prepared?
Well, there have been refugee camps set up everywhere where there are basic amenities. So just basic, water, toilet paper, things like that, soup.
Yes.
So we are seeing that, but that's essentially it at the moment. Some of them, of course, have relatives and so forth, or friends that are waiting for them if they do know someone. Others are heading towards a shelter and staying there until they figure things out further. It's minus in terms of temperature, and it's freezing. A lot of people have been camping out. It's a long walk once you cross over from the border, and you've probably been on foot even from the Ukraine side because as I mentioned, and as you know, there are a lot of queues. So people have been either stuck in their cars or been getting out and walking. Medic is actually the one border crossing where people can do this on foot. So they've been walking for hours. I met some girls just earlier who said it took them almost 27 hours. So imagine that on foot, there's really nothing around. It's just miles and miles and miles before you can get to a point. And
it's very interesting what you're also telling us, Abha, that some of the young men, boys, actually want to cross back and probably, try to fight for as long as possible. Abha, I'll come back to you shortly because at this point, Abha is... And Abha, if you can show us around, is it possible for you to just show us around what does the border look like? Yes, please.
So this is actually the Polish checkpoint. This is a kilometer from Medic, which is the town and where we're actually seeing a lot of people. So you can see the scores of people that are lining up to even sort of go back, and most of them being men. That's the border crossing there, and on the other side you can actually see
Abha Bakaya, on the Poland-Ukraine border, thousands of people fleeing from the country, refuge, just basic facilities there. Because Abha, we are also running some of the visuals that you had sent us earlier. And if you can still hear me, I do want to see what does the border look like, because we're talking about which looks no less than a humanitarian crisis, and Poland trying to open up its space for people from an adjacent country.
Actually being very friendly. So we walked all the way from Medic. It's about a little more than a kilometer to the checkpoint here. And the police are very helpful. If anything, they're guiding people. They're welcoming in the refugees. So this is not the Poland that was not friendly towards refugees, earlier in the year that came in, from Serbia or Middle East or otherwise. They're actually welcoming. There's an anti-Russia sentiment. They relate, they empathize. They've opened their arms. The Polish side is totally open. The border is totally open. If any issues and people crossing over, it's actually on the Ukrainian front at this point of time.
Incredible, and Abha Bakaya gets us that ground report, because it's not just about what's happening in Ukraine or Russia. It's also happening about what in these other countries that are opening up its spaces for these refugees. Take a look at these hugs and smiles. You know, someone you've managed to meet, a child, a woman. Many of these young men are staying back in Ukraine to join the army. Little kids and hugs. And, you know, these are visuals that just about a few days ago, these families must have thought nothing is going to happen. And now they're walking 27 hours on foot to reach to a safer location. Abha Bakaya, Rajesh Pawar, Maria Pizarenko continue to bring us these important ground reports, and historic in so many ways. Now remember, India today is trying to bring you voices from inside the war-hit Ukraine and outside as well. These are stories that not only are about trying to reach to safety, but also about struggles, uncertainty about what Ukrainians are now staring at. My colleague Shivarur spoke to one Ukrainian member of parliament, Lesia Vasilenko. This is a very important conversation, and you'll know why. Listen in to this.
You said that you're prepared to pick up a weapon as well. We're seeing many Ukrainians, young and old, who've actually enlisted with the territorial defense to actually stand up and defend the country. We are seeing that emotion and sentiment everywhere in Ukraine, that Ukrainians like yourselves are seeing this as a patriotic defense of your motherland. And if necessary, you will also pick up a weapon to fight.
Yes, I have weapons and I will use them. And it is the same feeling among all the 44 million Ukrainians. Because what we are doing, we are defending our homes, our families, our children. I am not just a member of parliament. I'm a mother of 3 children. I'm a wife and I'm a daughter. My parents are very old. My father is 85 and my mother is 73. I have to protect them and I have to take care of my family. And this is not something that we do for fun, you know, pick up the guns and go fight the Russians. No, this is something that we do as a necessity to defend ourselves. The country is in martial law and the country has announced full mobilization. Full mobilization means that anyone who can do anything to defend Ukraine is doing that the best that they can. And yes, the people are arming themselves. The men and the women are arming themselves.
You know, Lesia, Ukraine has a military. It has a military that can fight back. It is fighting back right now. Is there a sense that the Ukrainian military is not sufficient, you know, to actually beat back or fight back the Russians, because the Russians are simply so large, and that's why citizens like yourselves are also prepared to pick up a rifle or a weapon and fight?
When there is an all-in attack on the country, it is the duty of all citizens to pick up those weapons and fight. And it is the duty of us as nationals of Ukraine to protect our homes and our countries. It is logic that dictates this duty. The Ukrainian army has become much stronger since 2014.
Yeah.
And the Ukrainian army is growing stronger by the day because it's reinforced by territorial defense units, which are composed of citizens who are picking up the weapons and going out, setting out to fight. And but the main blow is, of course, taken by the Ukrainian military, the professionals who know how to use the heavy machinery, who know how to use the anti-tank weapons and the anti-airstrike weapons. But we need more of those weapons. It's not like we're in peacetime. We need more javelins, we need more anti-tanks, we need more anti-airstrikes, because we are using them every single night, every single day, by the hour.
Yeah.
And for us to be able to hold our skies safe without the intervention of internationals, we need more of those weapons, but essentially we need a no-fly zone over Kyiv and the rest of Ukraine, and that can only be provided by international assistance. So we count on that, despite standing strong against Putin's army.
Lesia, one final question, and I thank you for giving us a sense of how you're feeling right now. How worried is your family? Tell us about the conversations that you're having with your family, with your friends, with your children, with your country under siege. Help us understand how you are explaining this to the young and the old in your family?
Well, the old in my family are more experienced than I am because they have lived through occupation of Kyiv in World War II, and they have. My parents have spent all their lives fighting for the independence of Ukraine. So that is not such a problem. They are actually a huge support and assistance when it comes to taking care of the children. Because essentially, what I do all of these days is I speak to the people of the world. And I'm very grateful to you and your media channel for allowing me to speak to the people of India and to explaining to them what is going on in Ukraine, to give you facts about what is going on in Ukraine and what the people of Ukraine are going through. Because essentially what is happening now is that the world order is getting changed. The defense and security as we know it today is getting changed. If Russia is not stopped, then maybe on Monday we all wake up without Ukraine on the map of the world, and also with a world order to which none of us are used to or prepared for. So this is a matter of international security, and this is why I call on all global community, all citizens in this world to unite for Ukraine, to stand with Ukraine and to petition your governments and parliaments to give money for the Ukrainian army. But not just money, more importantly, give guns, give weapons, and be present here on the ground fighting with Ukrainians in the air, on the sea and on the land. We need this help to counter the biggest aggressor in the whole world.
One final question to you, Lesia, is that India has been a friend of Ukraine. India has been a friend of Russia as well. You do know that India has abstained in the United Nations Security Council, which was expected. What would you say if you could speak right now to the Indian government, the Indian system right now? What would you tell them?
Right now I'm speaking to the Indian people, and I hope that the Indian people will now use this information to petition the government and the parliament and call on them to stop turning their eyes away from what is really happening in the world. Lives are getting taken. Children are being put at risk. Russia shot at 3 kindergartens, at a children's hospital, at a school. They stop at nothing. They shoot at the residential areas which are densely populated. They create chaos and they create death. Civilian casualties are rising by the hour, civilian, not military. Ukrainian military casualties are not as big as civilian casualties. So please, I call on the people to speak to your government, to stop ignoring what is going on and to actually call Russia, who is also, India's partner, fair enough. NATO is also Russia's partner, by the way. But, to call this partner of yours to stop the madness and to stop behaving like it is behaving. And the best way to do it is to vote on international resolutions against this crazy state of things that we find ourselves in.
Remember, such a war is as much about voices as it is about visuals. And India today, as has promised you, is bringing you voices from inside Ukraine of people, public in general, but also members of parliament. We have spoken now to 5 Ukrainian members of parliament already, all women, speaking out, sharing their incredible stories of bravery, courage and struggle as well as they brace for the Russian aggression. We continue to bring these voices to you on the other side. These are unbelievable interviews. You have to listen to what these women have to say. Members of parliament, and many of them are actually on the target of the Russian forces.